the measures that have been put in place. I'm sure the Ministry of Health has looked into this thoroughly, and I'm pretty confident since they managed to help us through the first round. I'm quite sure that they'll do that this time around as well. We were one of the top countries actually in dealing with COVID, so that says a lot, yeah.
CMCO, I see that your firm is already prepping up for what's to come with all of your IT guys on their laptops.
Yes, yes, we are. I mean, we've been through a lockdown before. Naturally, like everybody else, the safety of people is paramount. The safety of our staff is paramount. We believe in complying with the authorities and their regulations and SOPs, trying to keep everybody safe. Like other businesses, we are more prepared now to conduct meetings online via Zoom and other tools, video conferencing and so on and so forth, to try to minimize the contact with unnecessary or things that can be avoided, contact that can be avoided as far as possible. We do have a crew that is working at the office, so it's business as usual, except we're just cutting down on contact with people and clients.
Mm-hmm. And how do you find our legal system adapting to the new norm? Because following your page, I see that a lot of hearings have been put online as well.
Yes, I think we've adapted really well, really quickly. We've had a lot of time and we've learned from the last MCO. You find that the courts are now conducting trials and hearings online. We have an e-filing system that allows us to file our documents online. So we're pretty much okay. We're good to go this time, so it's pretty much business as usual.
Okay. Yeah, so that's
a provision of legal services anyway.
All right. So usually we hear that there are a lot of hiccups when it comes to government tech, but has that been your experience with the legal system?
No, actually, we have a very good Chief Justice who's acted very swiftly and very prudently in the way that she has handled the administration of the courts, especially when litigation is concerned anyway. Even the numbers of, even when we used to have trials or open court trials where people would go to court in between now and the end of the last MCO, there were very strict SOPs in place. So before you went into the court, you would have to register with the necessary app and then check your reading before you're allowed in. And even if you're allowed in, only a certain number of people are allowed in open court. You need to ask permission from the court if you exceeded a certain number of witnesses or clients. So it was all very well regulated. I don't think we had any problems in the courts right up to now. Kudos to the people who administered kudos to the Chief Justice and her team. And we're back in business, really.
Okay, good to know. And what are your thoughts on the current, the response so far from the government in terms of managing the lockdowns ever since March?
Well, if you look at the numbers around the world, and if you look at what's happened in the US or the UK, where they have responded too slowly, or they have jithered, or they try to put the economy ahead of the safety of people and things like that. In many parts of Europe, the numbers are staggering. Somehow or other, we managed to get our act together. The government did well. They imposed the first lockdown, and that really flattened the curve. We're in a second or third wave currently, and I think I have full confidence that we'll be able to come through this with as long as people stick to the measures that have been put in place. I'm sure the Ministry of Health has looked into this thoroughly, and I'm pretty confident, since they managed to help us through the first round. I'm quite sure that they'll do that this time around as well. We were one of the top countries actually in dealing with COVID, so that says a lot. Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah. And then it's just the occasional hoo-ha where it seems like there is a disconnect in the communication between the federal government or the National Security Council and on the state level. So we heard the hoo-ha with the Klang Council, and then now Selangor, but it seems that they seem to have worked it out in the end.
I think to be fair, this happened early on as well. Now it's very annoying for businesses and people not really knowing or not being very clear as to what they can do or what they can't do, and especially people who are running businesses. But yeah, I think we have to put in perspective that we're not in a it's a novel situation. It's the first time it's happened, and I think we have to give the benefit of doubt to those in power, and they're trying. And then they have come out and clarified as quickly as they can. So, under the circumstances, we should focus on trying to keep people safe, and maybe not focus so much on all those other issues. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Because I see there are also a lot of political commentators who are saying, "Oh, we want a consistent response, to as the crisis unfolds." Right. But at the very same time, it's because, as you mentioned, we are dealing with a novel situation. How can you be consistent with your response when you're getting new information about COVID?
Exactly. I mean, one day you see Klang has X number of cases, one day you see Petaling has suddenly a surge. So I think it's very difficult to actually deal with that, because it's a daily thing and it's happening almost instantaneously. And I prefer to focus on the efforts and focus on the people out there that are trying their best. Applaud them, the frontliners and hospital staff. The hospitals are stretched at the moment, and so I'd rather keep the conversation about these people who are the heroes rather than who caused what.
Yep.
Just to put things in perspective.
Yeah, and yeah, certainly. And what do you feel is the difference between our country as compared to most of the Western countries, where they feel, it's all about liberty and freedom rather than taking care of one's community, for example?
I think the Asian mentality is to obey, to follow authority. Certainly in Malaysia, a lot of people, they do understand that they have to obey the laws, they have to follow authority, and maybe it's the way that we are. However, overseas, where you have a fundamental sort of movement on rights and things like that, sometimes it can be a bit misguided. And also, you find that in Malaysia, you don't find so much of conflicting media, not as much fake news about the virus and things like that, as opposed to the West. In the West, people come up with all sorts of fake news about the virus. People are not informed, and also in the way that we are, we're a much smaller country, and we're able to mobilize very quickly our system of government, if you want to call it that, or enforcement. So, for example, they announce lockdown immediately. You'll have the police there. You'll have the roadblocks. You will have that enforcement. Whereas in other countries, much bigger, and it's not so easy to roll out these enforcement procedures and things like that, which then allow for different responses, because people may not just follow. Like in New York, at one point, everybody was in the beach, despite the government saying, "Hey, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that," right? So to a large extent, I think over here people just tend to follow the lead and respect the authorities, and also because over here, I think we are able to enforce things a lot better. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I totally agree with you. And, I feel that one of the reasons why the West is so polarized is also, I guess, to a certain extent of how free they are to express themselves. And it's always been a question in my mind. Do you ever draw a line around freedom of speech, or do you allow it to go freely and then allow people to eventually, amidst all of the chaos, rationalize out of it?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, there's freedom of speech here as well to a large extent, as long as it's not seditious or something. But yeah, and people are free to criticize the government if they don't think it's right. And people have, Baoans have been criticizing, other people have been criticizing the government. So I don't so much think it's a question of freedom of speech. I think it's just that over here we tend to understand things in a way that we need to comply with rules and things like that. And by and large, people do comply with the law.
Yep.
I mean, in other countries, they you say you can't mobilize people or people can't be outside, and then there's a 20,000 people gathering in a park, protesting, and what do? Do you send out the water cannons? What do you do? So at the end of the day, it's also about how people respond to authority.
Yep, yep, definitely. Okay, so I mean,